Hey everybody, welcome back. It is another 60-degree, beautiful sunny day in the Arizona desert. It is December 20th and I thought I would come back out now that the canopy on the Jeep is done, over the Jeep is done. I thought I'd come back out and do a little bit more work on the Mustang. So on the agenda for today, first thing I want to do before I put the power steering pump back in, I want to fix this wire. This goes to the oil pressure sending unit, and obviously that needs some repairs. I think what I'm going to do is just pop the sending unit off of there, pull it out, and it's threaded. It's threaded on the end, and this was just one of those push-on terminal ends, and I don't have any of those. I think what I'll do is pop it out of there, put a ring terminal in a 18-inch long piece of wire out of there. I don't want to dig into the wiring harness right now, so I'll probably just replace it up here where the insulation is still good. Then I'm going to get the power steering hoses back on. The low pressure hose is on and laying down there someplace. The high pressure hose is sitting in a bag over on top of the tires, I think. I'm going to get the power steering pump back in. Want to get the oil changed, want to get some coolant in it, and if I'm feeling good about it, I may even pop the wheels and tires back on it. But I want to do what I need to do underneath of it while I still have it up on the jack stand. So a little bit of a change of plans here. I forgot that I'm going to do away with those aftermarket gauges on the inside, so I didn't need that T-joint down there, and I don't need this. So I just pulled it all out and put the sending unit directly down into the oil filter housing, put the wire on. Yeah, I need some cover for the wire, but I used my last piece on the CJ7 winch install. So I've got the power steering kind of hung back in place because I have to cut this return line to length. But look at this thing. This is high pressure hose. This isn't cheap hose, and this is a cut to length part. And I'm going to be cutting 3 feet off of this. I just wonder what vehicle was made requires an extra 3 feet of return hose on it, because you know they wouldn't give you all that hose if some vehicle didn't require it. And of course, those of us who don't need it are still having to pay for it. Sucks. Kind of sucks, but there it is. The power steering pressure line, it's into, and it's a hose that connects to the pump on one end and connects to another hose on the other end. Just a brilliant design. All right, there we go. Power steering is back in. The hoses are all back on. They're still only zip tied up below, but the original clamp is missing. And I have nobody to blame on that except me, because probably from about 1975 onward, maybe even earlier than that, probably more like 74 or 73 and onward, I was the only one who ever worked on this car. So if there's something buggered up about it, it's me. Or Ford. So I can always blame Ford for stuff, right? Anyway, that was a fiddly mess getting that back in and lined up. It seemed like no matter what I did, there'd always be at least one bolt that wouldn't line up. But I did finally get it back in. Belts on, belts tension. Long as the water pump doesn't leak, which it's a Ford, so it will, the front of the engine is done. And I'll tell you something, bending over this thing for an hour wrestling that thing back into place has my back barking, and it is lunchtime, so that's what I'm going to do. That's the great thing about having a YouTube channel. There's always videos to edit, there's always comments and emails to respond to, things like that. So that's what I've been doing lately. I've been coming out in the morning doing this kind of stuff, and then going in after lunch and doing the video editing and the comment responding and responding to people who want me to review sex toys. And yes, that's a thing. And no, I'm not going to do it. Next morning, and I'm going to get back to work on this, and I'll see how much I can get done before my back throws up its proverbial hands and says, no mas. Anyway, I got coolant, oil, and a filter. I'm going to have to get some ATF. I know I got some in my garage. I'm going to get some ATF for the power steering. Going to add coolant to it. Going to add power steering fluid. Gonna warm it up enough just to get the oil circulated and a little warm, because it's kind of a chilly morning here in Arizona. and then I'm going to change the oil out. And after that, I don't know. We'll find out. Right, I got coolant in it and power steering. I overfilled the power steering, but that will correct itself. I've already got something dripping out there, back there slightly. Looks like coolant, but where it's coming from yet, I do not know. But it's coming out the back somewhere, so we'll figure that out, I'm sure. Maybe one of these hoses back here. I don't see anything coming out of anywhere up front. That's not making me very happy. But let's start it up and let's see what happens. Let's see if I can get it warmed up and at least get the oil changed. Choke on. All right, let's see if she'll start up and warm up for me. I turned the idle mixture adjustment richer by half a turn. Hopefully that'll help. All right, still won't run with the choke wide open. I'm guessing I probably have a vacuum leak somewhere. I'll have to bring the smoke leak detector out and see if I can't determine from where. But, and I definitely got coolant dripping out underneath, and we're dripping out near the back of the engine. So, and I looked inside, it's not the heater core, and it's not coming from up front. So shockingly enough, it's not the water pump. So I'm guessing probably a freeze plug, but that definitely warmed it up enough to the point where I think I can change the oil in it. You know, at least we'll get that done. And maybe when it dries up underneath, I will see if I can crawl under it and see where that leak is coming from. This is 7/8. Yeah, it's 7/8. Oh, you don't see that much anymore. Plus, it looks like it's goobered up a bit. Probably from having a crescent wrench put on it too many times. Wow, 7/8. Fortunately, and yes, it is one of the rear freeze plug on this side leaking. Hopefully it's the only one leaking, and it's not the one behind the motor mount, so I lucked out in that regard. Oil is warm, which is what I wanted, and not hot. Oh, I got something leaking up here too. What is that? Oh, that's power steering fluid. That's fine. I overfilled it, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah, I'm going to have to drain the system and swap out this rear freeze plug. Great. Let's loosen the oil filter while I'm under here. Probably not that tight itself. Of course not, it's barely tight. Let's see if we can get this out of here too. Anybody want a 50-year-old oil filter? It's not that old, but it's got to be 35. And let that drip. AC Delco. Absolutely what you want on your Ford. I have a proper Motorcraft filter to put back on it, although not that I think it's any better than the AC Delco. here is that freeze plug up there that's leaking. That one's not all too horrible to get to. Then there's one right there that if it was leaking wouldn't be too horrible to get to. It's not leaking, however, but the one back up in there above that motor mount, it does appear to be leaking. And to get that motor mount's going to have to come out. Sorry, I'm showing you the oil filter. That motor mount's going to have to come out. And because it's the only way to get to it. I think. See, there it is. No, you can't even see it here. It is absolutely in behind. There it is right there. And you can see it's leaking too. And so the motor mount's got to come out to get that one. And there's no point in not doing all three of them. Although I had somebody tell me years ago, never, ever, ever replace a freeze plug that isn't leaking. And over here, I got the front one there leaking. And the back one is partially behind the starter, and it does not appear to be leaking. But from where I have oil running down that motor mount, I'm guessing the one behind the motor mount on this side is leaking too. But if I'm going to pull the motor mounts, I'm going to pull both of them, lift the engine up, and I'll do both freeze plugs. I'll have to make up my mind if I want to pull the starter out to do that one. You know, the ones that aren't leaking are the ones that are pretty much the easiest to get to. I might leave those alone. We'll see. Anyway, let's get some oil back in it. I want to run it long enough to circulate the oil, and then I'm going to call it quits until I get freeze plugs. All right, the oil is changed, and there was other things I was going to do in this video, but to be honest, the freeze plugs are kind of putting a dent in that. I think I am going to run it long enough to distribute the oil around, the fresh oil around, but I'm not going to run it long enough to cover my floor with coolant. And I think everything else I wanted to do was going to require me to run it longer. So I guess after distributing it around, I'm probably going to end this video until I can get some freeze plugs. And I want to get it jacked up a little higher. I'm going to want to put a set of extra jack stands under it just to make absolutely sure that it's not going to wreck my new year by falling on me, because that would suck. Even though it's very secure now, I'm just going to make it doubly very secure. So let's get it started up again. All right, let's try again. Why you don't want to start now? Are you flooded? Huh, it was running just a few minutes ago. All I did was change the oil. Boy. Will not run. Okay, that's kind of curious. What happened? You were running here just a little bit ago. Why are you refusing now? Well, today has been a load of fun. Today has been one of those one step forward, two step back days, or maybe even one step forward, three steps back. I did get the oil changed and the power steering fluid in and the coolant in. Of course, then I found out I had leaky freeze plugs, and of course the ones behind the motor mounts are two of the four that are leaking. So the engine's going to have to be lifted up a bit. Motor mounts are going to have to be pulled for me to get to those. And if that wasn't bad enough, after I got the oil change and I went to restart it, it would not start. Oh, it would start, but as soon as I stopped cranking, it would die. Now on these older engines, that usually means the resistor wire to the coil is bad. On a Chrysler product, it would be that goofy looking ceramic ballast resistor that would be mounted up against the firewall. Usually that was the cause there. But I'm not getting 12 volts to the coil at all with the key on. And this car has one of those aftermarket Sequel 2000 alarm systems in it. And I have been having that issue on and off. And I blamed it on that alarm system, so I yarded it out of there. That's it there. This is all the wiring that goes to it. While I was in there under the dash, I got rid of this aftermarket gauge panel and this aftermarket switch and light. This turned on the rear defroster, that aftermarket rear defroster on the window. I was sure this was the problem. I tried to find all the wiring and reverse everything that was done to put this in. One of these two fuses went to the fuse panel. The other one, I don't know where it went. It was just laying back there loose. I may have accidentally pulled it out of wherever it was, but I can't find where it went in. So now I have two issues. Not only do I have no 12 volts at the coil with the key on, it also does not crank with the key. So definitely one step forward and two steps back. I still have the problem that it will not run without the choke on, even though I've richened the idle up considerably. So I must, either those idle passages are plugged, which seems unlikely to me considering how long this thing spent in the tank and how I blew it out with both carb cleaner and compressed air. It's possible, but I'm guessing a vacuum leak is more likely. But yeah, this has been one of those frustrating days, and I am not having fun at the moment. So I think I'm going to go in. I'm going to see if I can research that alarm system and see all where the wiring went and what changes were made. There were some changes to these wires over here. I need to make sure that I got those back on the solenoid the way they belong. It's possible that I didn't. These two accessory wires were off and were connected together and weren't on the solenoid. And there was a secondary wire coming from them that went to the alarm system. So I got to track all this stuff down and figure it out so that the ignition system is right. I'm going to order some freeze plugs and I'm going to order motor mounts, because if I'm going to pull the motor mounts, I'm going to put new ones in. And we'll come back another day with some parts and some more knowledge and hopefully a better attitude. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. If you have any suggestions, comments, comical statements, or just derision, you know where to leave them. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.